What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Hope you're all doing well today, and welcome to Ride Park. Now, this is a real life track. It is located in, well, just outside of Melbourne in Australia, and it is I guess, collaborative effort between Skrillex and Moisty. Skrillex is the one who posted it on mods, and he gives thanks to Moisty for the photo scan. And I believe majority of this is a 3D scan track. So if I zoom out here in distance, you can see, first of all, like texture-wise, really impressive. It is very pretty, but then 3D scans always do have that, I guess, realistic approach to it when you get a scan done really well, which I think this one has been. And you can tell it's a 3D scan because when you come down to bits of the track like this, I'm guessing these are like bales of hay dotted around the track, for example. You've still got these rises in the map over here, so I'm guessing it's one like really big texture placed on top of it, and then whether it's a drone or something, I have no idea, that gets the actual height map itself. But then I've seen tracks in the past where some bits of the track can be all like rough and rugged, so it's had to be gone through and smoothed out and built up in certain areas. Now, I was a little bit hesitant to ride this track. I saw a preview lap of it. I saw a work in progress got posted on Facebook, and I saw just how fast the track was. And if you've been watching my videos for a while now, you'll know that I mentioned sometimes tracks that even can be really fun in real life sometimes don't translate over quite as well into bikes. They can get a little bit boring. This track does look on the easy side in terms of just riding around it. I think I've made a big mistake today as well, because I'm riding a Yami 250. Some of you might be asking why. I watch Reaper Doc on occasion. I saw Reaper Doc doing well on it. I've seen people like Neon doing well on it recently, and I tuned in to watch the NA racing last night at Rancho Cordova, and a lot of NA 250 riders are trying it. So I'm going to give it a go. I've copied Reaper's settings like for like, and we'll see how she goes. Unfortunately, this might be a right trigger simulator. I'll be honest. Like, it looks like an incredibly fast track, but I do like showing off 3D scan tracks because from a visual perspective, they are some of my most enjoyable ones to play in the game. So without further ado, let's spin some laps and try not to blow the engine up.
For all of you passionate gamers, you can now get 20% off all G Fuel products worldwide by using code LINS at checkout. And for any of you motorheads looking for some new drip or apparel, use code MXPR_LINS15 fxrracing.eu to get 15% off. All links and codes are in the description down below. Enjoy the video and drop a cheeky little like and subscribe.
I'm going to leave my controller overlay on for this as well, just so you can see how much the right trigger is held down. So we're going to see how this goes. I mean, a smart person would have ridden a 450 for this rather than a 250, just so you haven't got to be on the throttle quite as much everywhere. But I do still need some 250 practice, and I'm actually feeling more and more comfortable as we go. I've been trying a variety of them out. Don't go over that, thank you. And I tried the Gas 250 last night because I was riding the Gas 450 for EU, and it was an incredibly good time. I've generally, a couple of silly mistakes aside, and even though I didn't win yesterday, spoilers, by the way, sorry about that if you haven't watched it already, I ended up getting second overall behind Finn. Finn could probably go 22-0 this year, by the way. Guy's on absolute rails, far too quick of a pace for me. He was behind me for about 3 laps in a row, and I just ended up like choking and cracking and just crashing in front of him and giving him the lead. But pace-wise, I felt really good. And it's always hard to tell off of just one race, simply because the Hangtown, the whole vibe of the track at Hangtown was so much different than that of Parla. Probably should have my track map on so things like that don't happen. Let's go yah yeet up and get back on again, yah yeet. So Hangtown, I really don't know the best way of giving like criticisms or constructive feedback on tracks without it sounding too negative. And I don't want it to sound negative because I'm always really appreciative of the replica tracks that we get week in and week out for our series. I feel like Hangtown might have just missed the mark a little bit, and please bear in mind that all of these opinions are formed from a quote-unquote professional racing sense. These aren't perspectives of if you just want to load up the track and have a bit of fun on a track. This is how tracks challenge the top riders and how they race with top riders on race day. So please just bear that in mind, and I don't think it can be classed as skill issue or anything. Don't hit the usual womps, because I did end up second overall, which I'm ecstatic with. Really good night of racing for me. So I think the track was too easy and too fast and too one-lined. Now, some of you might be confused about the one-line bit, because if you watch back any of the streams, whether it was mine or like Troy's POV or Cupcake, Narvo's Skills Twitch, whoever it may be, it might have given the illusion of being a good track for battles. However, my rebuttal to this, because I saw a couple of commentators saying the track looked good for battling, no one's actually battling with each other. They're sitting on each other's cheeks in a single file line waiting for the other one to crash so they can then overtake. There wasn't really any back and forth passes going on. Now, but there is also a positive from this whole situation that I saw, is when I was watching 250 NA last night, I think they had about 10 minutes left in the race to go, so really, really deep into a race, and the gap between first place and 22nd place was only 50 seconds. So 50 seconds covering those 22 riders. So they were very, very close together. However, I think that's because there was literally no like skill gap at all for the track. I don't think it had a very high skill ceiling, so there was a limit to how fast you could go. The 250s are on absolute rails around that track. Not too dissimilar from here, to be completely honest. I know that the track creators, they don't build the layouts of the tracks, you know, like they have to follow the real life track layouts and do the best job possible. And I know they're going for a realism factor this year. So the bits of the track IRL that were actually rough, like the 2 steep downhills, were actually rough in game. But it's just the rest of the track was just so quick. And what ended up happening is, even on 450s, it was rail the outside line simulator for a good 90% of the track. And if I had to give it a rating in terms of difficulty, I would generally say it was about 2 out of 10. And I think the majority of people could pick up the game and just ride around that track without any issue at all. So I think when it comes to the, I guess, pro level races, I just want things a little bit more difficult. But I don't know the best way of doing that. So I'm actually genuinely interested to see everyone else's thoughts. And again, do bear in mind, this is from a competitive standpoint. I know that that's quite a niche viewpoint to have, because majority of the community isn't looking to rock up to pro races every single week. I also know that I said, as soon as I started qualifying on the track, I said, I think I prefer Parlour, but I guarantee a majority of the community will prefer this, because it is actually a really, really fun track to play by itself. But again, all opinions that I'm giving right here are for the races. So if you did take part in it, I'd be very interested to know your thoughts, because it looked like people that had atrocious couple of opening laps, so they was fairly buried, had a hard time coming back through. I had a really bad start in one of the motos, but I got quite lucky on lap 1 where there was quite a lot of mistakes and people getting tangled together that I was able to avoid. But other than that, I don't really remember passing anybody. At least not to my knowledge. Maybe like a couple of people that I would expect to pass, but nobody at kind of like a top sort of level. I mean, we was all running, I think, within half a second of each other every single lap, especially in Moto 1, when the track was still pretty damn fresh. It was just ridiculous. The pace was disgusting. So yeah, I mean, I'm very interested to see people's thoughts and feedback, because the issue is that the 2 downhills that were made really rough, they were genuinely really, really rough. But somehow we were still able to just launch down it and bounce over all the bumps in 2 bounces. And I generally think that that's not a track problem as such. That could go as far as saying it's either the suspension on the OEM bikes that we compete on are too good, or alternatively the game's physics are a bit wonky, because I mean, we're jumping down some of these hills, landing on a braking bump, and then getting rebounded up a little bit, so like Paboso bouncing, over the next 5, 6, 7 braking bumps and missing them all out, and it actually ends up being really, really smooth. So I guess we're kind of using the game's wonkiness at this point to our advantage, and it's tough. It's really, really tough to say what should change, to be fair. Hangtown's always been one of them tracks. Like if you take the right-handed 180 at the bottom of the hill before you start hitting the uphill rollers, that every single iteration of Hangtown I've ever played, we've routed the outside of that corner, and I think there's only so much you can do about it. So this isn't really attacking the track as such. I don't know the best direction to go in when things like that happen. Maybe it was just the track layout, maybe it is just going to be fast, but I remember the 2022 Hangtown when it released, or I can't remember what the situation was, but for whatever reason, the track got updated again because I think people didn't like how rough it actually was. I think people were complaining it was too rough, and I feel like this one kind of went the opposite. I mean, again, I think it does give the illusion of the track being better for racing because times were so close to each other, and I can fully see that. But the reason they were so close to each other was because the track was so easy and there wasn't really anything to separate people at all. I mean, you can run almost the exact same lap time, lap after lap after lap after lap, if the track's not eroded, to be fair. I will admit, I will say, when Moto 2 came around, about halfway through Moto 2, the track was a completely different track than it was at the start of Moto 1, and that's when the skill kind of came into play. And I did actually enjoy it a lot more once the road came into play as well, because then one or two more lines in some of the corners opened up as a bit more viable. Once one got a little bit too rough, you could experiment and move over a little bit. I think Thunder Valley is going to be, again, a hell of a lot of a different beast. I think it will be more the direction of roughness Parlour was. Thunder Valley always looks pretty brutal, IRL. It is a track that, again, is difficult, I think, from a track creator standpoint. Because of all of the hills and the off-cambers, it's very difficult to not make it either very outside dominant or very inside dominant. But I've got faith. I've got faith in the track crew. I feel like they'll do a good job regardless. And again, this isn't like hating on any of them. I think they do a really, really good job. I'm very appreciative of the tracks that we get. They look visually absolutely stunning. The objects this year have been insane as well, with like the Race Tech Shock inflatables. They look great. And then Sony's been doing a great job on the hype maps as well. That was just my feedback after round 2, and you're not going to get 11 rounds of a series where you absolutely love each and every single track. It is what it is, and yeah, I don't want that to be taken as like a super negative thing at all, just some sort of feedback that I felt from ending up second overall in 450s. I've ridden it on a 250. It is wide open on a 250. Very, very similar to this. I mean, you can just get cranked over in some of the ruts and go really, really quickly. And I found myself getting a little bit bored throughout the motos because, again, it wasn't a challenge. I can understand most of the community going, well, that's really, really fun. But they do also make AMS versions of the tracks as well, which I think are the ones that should be fun. And then the pro version should be a bit more brutal to make us pick our way through easier. But they're going for realism. Hangtown was more hardpack and a lot less rutted than I believe Parlour was IRL. So that's been reflected in game. So yeah, very interested to see what we're looking like going forwards. And we still have a hell of a lot of very, very exciting tracks to look forwards to, I hope. So going back to this one, I'm glad that I've been sitting here waffling, actually. It's kind of distracted me. Again, visually looks really, really good. And then I expect no less when it comes to scan tracks. And the way that the berms have been built up around the outside, I feel like there's a certain level of community who will be able to just really enjoy this just by rallying it everywhere. I'm tempted to turn my reshade off. It is a little bit on the bright side. The track by default is very, very bright itself, and it's just wide open. I mean, you've been seeing how much I've been accelerating with the controller overlay turned on. Give this Yami a go, by the way. If you haven't watched Reaper's video yet, it's about 3 or 4 videos ago. The thumbnail literally says like set up in this video, and it's at the end of the video. Give it a go, because the meta, at least in EU at the moment, seems to be Husky 250. But this actually feels really, really nice. And, oh, it's nice to... A lot of the time why I don't switch and mess around with a bunch of different bikes is from a suspension standpoint. I've got no clue what I'm doing. So if I have someone that I know creates good suspensions and he says, hey, try this out, I usually give it a go. And I'm not disappointed with this. It feels really good. It feels very, very planted in the corners, at the same time being very, very nippy, like very nimble. It's really, really light. You can throw it about all over the place. And it only lacks the tiniest bit in power, at least feel of power, compared to, say, the KTM or the Husky. So really, really good. Give it a go. I would recommend it. And for this track as well, if you don't have the most PC space in the world, I would recommend downloading the low version, because I downloaded the high quality for this, and it is a gig in size. There's no objects dotted around anywhere like that. There's no super, super high or super, super low height on the height map. But I have a feeling the overlay, so the actual track texture that you're seeing right now, I have a feeling that is a disgustingly high resolution, like 16K plus maybe. I feel like it's a disgustingly high amount, which is what would cause the file size to be so big. So if you are limited on space, download the low one because it's about, I think it was just under 500 meg, and then yeah, the high one is just over a gig. So fun for a little rip around. Maybe you want to have a tear around with your friends, get a bit steezy over some of these big tables, because the jump faces on here are faced very, very nicely. They do flow really, really well. I would, if he has any plans on making another version of this at some point, maybe making some inside ruts, or maybe a little bit of chop here and there, I think that would also be a big W. But it's not something I could see myself coming back to time and time again, just from what I want in the game is a little bit more of a challenge. I know I don't speak for everybody. Some people are going to have an absolute blast riding around here. But yeah, I'm about 5 laps deep right now. I've barely shut off anywhere. And I actually, 250 is more than enough power to get up and over the jumps. It is recommended, it does say on mods actually, that it was built for the A-kit bikes. I just really want to try these 250 OEMs out some more, since they're what I need to get good on for preparing for qualifying for Great Britain, for Nations, whenever that happens. And I'm feeling better and better by the day. I really am. I'm giving it a little bit of time here and there. Of course, my focus is still predominantly 450s for aerial, and I'm just feeling quite comfortable in the game. It's so nice being able to play the game, by the way, without a busted controller stopping you turning halfway around every single right-hander that you take. So big W's. Let me know your thoughts on the track as well if you've played it yet. If you haven't, go and give it a test. And like I said earlier, give me a little bit of feedback on your thoughts on Hangtown in comparison to Parlour. And let me know if that's coming from a casual standpoint or a competitive standpoint. So I'm curious to see what the overall opinions are. But thank you, Skrillex and Moisty, for supplying this for us. I am always such an absolute simp for 3D scan tracks. I don't know why, there's just a certain itch in my brain. And I think for screenshots, you're probably going to see a lot of screenshots on this track, because yeah, visually, very, very nice. And like the not tabletops, you know what I mean, like the step-up jumps we've got, the rollers through the sand there, I think that they've been built really nicely. They're nice and smooth, and carry lots and lots of momentum. And yeah, other than that, not too much else to say. So thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed, please do drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'd very much appreciate it. And have a lovely rest of the day, whatever you're up to. I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.
I'm sacrificing my life, I'm sacrificing my mind, I'm sacrificing my sanity, but most importantly, I'm sacrificing my time. Boy, I feel fine, I feel like I am a king. Honestly, I can't complain. Even with faith that's the size of a grain of some salt, I will still move a mountain and do what I want.